Ahmed Quraishi, Senior Research Fellow at the Project for Pakistan in 21st Century.
The assassination or the alleged assassination of the son of the founder of the Haqqani network, first of all, it has not been conclusively confirmed yet. So although there are some Pakistani reports and also some American reports that suggest that yes, he might have been assassinated, but we're still not sure. This is a classic example of what is wrong with the drone program. Often, if you go back over the past 6 or 7 years, notice that there have been several instances where very key people in the Al-Qaeda network were assassinated or were said to have been killed, and then they turned out alive later on. And unfortunately, this aspect of the drone program is little highlighted in the American media. They do not focus that much on it, mainly because the sources of the information in the Pentagon, in the CIA, don't discuss this point very much. Because if you discuss this point, you'll discover, if you probe it, if you go deeper into it, you'll discover that there is a problem of an issue of accuracy. Yes, over the past 5 or 6 years, there have been probably 3 or 4 cases of what you would call high-level targets that have been eliminated. But 3 or 4 is a very small figure compared to the number of drone attacks and the number of people who have been killed on the ground. So this creates the comparison, if you make a comparison between the number of high-level targets that have actually been eliminated and the number of the attacks themselves and the number of the casualties on the ground. It's the overall picture that emerges is very disturbing because it's of course quite obvious that there are a large number of people who are getting killed who may not be relevant, who may be just family members or tribal members or, frankly, a wrong target. And there have been many, many cases that confirm this, although those cases are not highlighted, as I said, in the U.S. media. So this is the problem, and this is an irritant for Pakistan. And every time there is an attack by the CIA, whether that attack really leads to a good result or not, the problem is that the ground for more recruitment of terrorists fighting with the Al-Qaeda or even with the TTP, the so-called Pakistani Taliban, the ranks swell, and the reasons that they use to convince others to join them, those reasons get stronger. So it really is not helping Pakistan. It is not in Pakistan's interest to kill 1 or 2 or 3 high-level people, let's say, once every couple of years, but in the meanwhile have, hundreds of others or tens of others, innocent ones, getting killed, and then their families and their sons and their uncles joining the terrorists to attack and kill Pakistani soldiers and civilians.
Well, as far as I understand, the Pakistani side has actually raised the issue with the Americans. Now, what would the Americans say to those arguments?
For the first time, if you notice, last week, for the first time, the spokesman for the Pakistan federal government, for the first time, did allude to the possibility of Pakistan resorting or going to some international forums to raise the question of the illegality of the CIA drone attacks. Now, the Pakistani government spokesman, of course, did not make a threat. And it is important to note that the Pakistani government does not want a confrontation with the U.S. government on this issue. The statement that came from the Pakistani government spokesperson was very simple. It said that currently, at the moment, we are not considering going to the International Court of Justice, for example, or to other UN forums to raise this issue. But the wording of that statement left an implication that actually the Pakistani government is considering this option. So it is there on the table. So it is being raised, and I think one of the reasons that the Pakistani side is not taking a conclusive, firm stand on the issue of the CIA drone attacks is a question of legal agreement signed under the previous Pakistani government of the military-led government of General Pervez Musharraf. It just seems that there are some sovereign agreements that Pakistan entered into that included many, many things, as you know, the whole gamut of cooperation between Pakistan and the U.S. on Afghanistan. That included, of course, the supply routes and included the visas and the working of the CIA inside both Pakistan and on the tribal region on the Afghan border. So there were so many things, and I think many of those things have been resolved. but it just seems to me that the drone issue is one of those things that are lingering from the days of President Musharraf, and it just seems that Pakistan, for legal reasons, is unable to really wiggle out of those agreements just yet. And Pakistan is trying instead to sort of convince the American side to mutually come out of whatever agreements both countries entered into, let's say, I don't know, a decade ago on the drone issue, and come out of it in an amicable way.
Mr. Quraishi, thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine.
And just to remind you, our guest speaker was Ahmed Quraishi, Senior Research Fellow at the Project for Pakistan in 21st Century.